Today, our speaker is Dan Crone with TMG to talk about his organization and Iris.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting us. This is a great opportunity to meet you all and be here. I was supposed to be joined by Carrie Gartsky, who I know some of you know, but she had something come up, a family situation come up, and could not be here today. But she wanted me to pass along a hello to everybody. But so many of you, I think that we've probably crossed paths at the Self-Determination Conference or another conference in the Dells or another part of the States, but not sure if we've ever formally met. So it's wonderful to meet you all. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think this is wonderful that you guys are holding these luncheons. So I really appreciate the opportunity and the invitation from Sydney. But like Sydney said, my name is Dan Crone and I work for TMG. Some of you may know TMG, but TMG is an organization in the IRIS program. I'm going to throw out anyone that knows the answer to this question will get a bonus point, but does anyone know what IRIS stands for? Jordan, looks like you maybe know.
Isn't it for the centers of and the funny thing is I'm on IRIS, and isn't it for the centers of community living? I don't know. I'm sorry, but I got the acronym wrong, but
yeah, it's one of those acronyms that you hear a lot about, but nobody ever stops and says, well, what does IRIS even stand for? Well, the letters IRIS actually stand for something, are short for something. So I don't know if anyone wants to take a guess.
I could just look it up within 1 minute.
Oh yeah, I suppose we could Google.
Yeah,
we're all on our computer, so we can.
Yeah, but I just see if Mara can get it or something like that. I know, Cindy, are you on IRIS?
No.
No,
but
okay.
I was just waiting to
know.
see if anyone else was.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. So it stands for Include, Respect, I Self-Direct. Yes. Yeah. So Miriam, you had almost all of it. Yeah. So Include, Respect, I Self-Direct. Nice job. I'll give the bonus point to Mira.
Give it to Mira.
I'll trust she wasn't Googling that as we were talking. But IRIS is a long-term care option here in the state of Wisconsin. It is for adults 18 years and older, and it is part of the Medicaid waiver program. So it is different from the other long-term care programs out there, like family care, because it is considered the self-directed long-term care option. And I can share a little bit more about what that means. But a little bit more about TMG, the organization I work for. Well, first I should tell you probably a little bit more about myself before I tell you. So again, I'm Dan, and I live in the southeast part of the state. I live in Milwaukee. I've been with TMG for a little over 5 years now, and I'm the manager of the community partnership team with TMG. I have 2 boys, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're keeping me busy. They're off of school now in the summer break, so it's very loud. So I'll warn you that if you hear some screaming children in the background, that are my 2 boys. And like I said, I've been with TMG for 5 years, but TMG has been around for a long time, since the 1980s. They did a lot of quality oversight for the Department of Health Services for a number of years. And then in 2008, the IRIS program was being formed, and TMG had the unique opportunity to become the first agency in the IRIS program. So since 2008, our main focus has been working with people in the IRIS program. And we currently work with really close to about 18,000 people in the program now. IRIS is available in all 72 counties across Wisconsin. And we have hundreds of consultants that work in every part of the state. And when somebody chooses IRIS, and if they choose TMG, they will be paired up with one of our many consultants, and they will work one-on-one to help develop a plan that is built around the individual's goals, life goals, long-term goals. And I can share a little bit more about that a little later on. But going back to what makes IRIS unique is that it is the self-directed option. Does anyone want to take a guess at what it means to self-direct?
I can give it a try.
Sure.
I think self-direct means you can make your own decisions, and you basically make the decisions with your consultants. Like it's like on you to fill out the paperwork, because I have to sign 2 pieces of paper every 2 weeks for my mom and dad to get paid and stuff.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So really what it means to self-direct is having the maximum amount of choice and control over the services and supports you need, and the people you would like to provide that support to you, to help you achieve whatever your life goals are. So for example, if your life goal is to want to have employment and have a job and be out in your community working, you would work together with your IRIS consultants to determine what type of support you would need in order to do that. So for example, you may need transportation to and from your place of employment. And you could use your IRIS funding for transportation needs. You may need a job coach to be there with you on the job and providing you some support, and you could use your IRIS funding for some job support. You may just need some help with job skills, or developing a resume, or other aspects related to work, maybe even some supplies that you may need for your job. And those would all be part of what would go into your IRIS plan, with the ultimate goal is, you want to work, and this is what it's going to take to make sure that you're successful with your employment. Another example would be living out on your own, or creating a home for yourself that is what you want, and what is going to work best for you. So if that means living out in an apartment on your own, or in a house on your own, or living with others, family members, friends, what type of support do you need, or services do you need in order to do that? Do you need some support with daily living skills? Do you need some supportive home care in your home? Do you have transportation needs? All of those type of things would be factored in as you're working with your IRIS consultants. And then, lastly, probably most important of all is getting connected with others in your community, making sure that you're out in your community, being social, getting involved, volunteering, just being an active participant in recreational activities or social activities of your choosing, making sure that you have the necessary support to do that. I wanted to share, if I can, it says I don't have ability to share my screen.
Let me
And
fix
if,
that.
and if I can't, that's okay.
You should be able to now.
Okay.
Let me know if you can't.
I can, yes. Can you all see this okay? Okay.
Yes.
So just wanted to bring this visual up and kind of walk you through the different aspects of this slide. But again, like I mentioned, TMG has been around since Iris started. We are the largest Iris consultant agency in the state, and we partner close to 18,000 people in the program. I wanted to start by just highlighting down here at the bottom what is noted here. So when you're exploring your long-term care options, or what happens when you turn 18, it all starts at your local Aging and Disability Resource Center. I think most of you probably know that already, but there's an ADRC in every county, and that's where you would start by exploring what, if you think that you qualify for long-term care, you would start there, and they would help you assess what your options would be. There's a helpful link, and I can send you all this slide after the presentation, but there's a helpful link here that takes you to a general website. I think I click on it, it will take us here. And I always recommend this site to people because it's a nice visual of the state, and you can click on, well, I think you can click on it. Yep, you can click on a county, and it pulls up the information for the local ADRCs in your area. And it gives you an email address and a phone number that you can reach out and just say, hey, I have some questions around services or long-term care options, and they'll get you set up an appointment and get started. So it all starts at your ADRC. And if there's one thing to take away from what I'm sharing today, it's that. Always go back to your ADRC, and they should be able to steer you in the right direction. But should somebody go through what's called options counseling and say Iris is an option, you would choose an Iris consulting agency to work with. And there are several, depending on which part of the state. There could be up to 4 Iris agencies to choose from. And then once you choose an Iris agency, you would choose a consultant, and the individual has total choice and control over the consultant they choose. They can change at any time, but it's really you want to find a consultant that you like, and that you think is a good partner for you, and is going to help you achieve whatever your long-term goals are. At the end of the day, the individuals in the program are in the driver's seat, and the consultants and TMG, well, we're in the passenger seat. I like to say, we may be holding a map for you and saying, well, here's some options for you in your community, or here's some organizations or agencies that you could work with. But at the end of the day, you're driving the car and you're going where you want to go, and we're helping you do that. So yeah, it all starts at the ADRC. And if you click on these different links, and I'll send this to you, it tells you a little bit, there's some helpful links here. So what is self-direction? We talked a bit about that earlier. But this is really what makes the program unique. Jordan, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I don't know if you're gonna take questions at the end. I maybe can hold off, but I just want to make sure because I have a couple questions already for you.
You can ask your questions now. We can just take questions as we go along, if that's okay with everybody.
Right. So is TMG, because I have Premier, is that one of your competitors?
That is a very good question. So Premier is not a competitor. They're part of Iris too, but they're on the money side of Iris. So the way I like to explain it is there's really two components to Iris. There's the people side of Iris, and then there's the money side of Iris. TMG, we're on the people side of Iris. So there are Iris consulting agencies that work directly with the people in the program. So, we are the ones that have the consultants that meet with you in your home or out in the community. And there is a financial end of things, and they're called fiscal employer agencies, or FEAs for short. And they're the ones that essentially pay your workers and pay the organizations that are providing, services to you. That's where the money comes from. Premier, as you mentioned, is one of the FEAs, the fiscal agents in Iris, and there are three others outside of Premier across the states. So going back to when I said when you're at the ADRC, you would choose an Iris agency to work with, like TMG, and you would also choose a fiscal agency to work with. So you would choose Premier, or there's another one called iLife, or one called Outreach, or one called GT Independence. So you would choose. There's two different things you have to choose should you choose to be in the Iris program. Does that answer your question, Jordan?
Yes. And then I have another question. I forget what company you're from again. I'm sorry, but
Sure, I'm from TMG.
TMG service where I'm from again?
I didn't catch the last part of your question.
Do they service my area? TMG.
TMG does, yes. So we are in all the counties across the state. Yep. So some of the other Iris agencies are not in all the areas of the state, but TMG, we are.
Okay. Now I have a lot of questions for my Iris person when I go next.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer any questions. It's complicated, and I wish it wasn't so complicated. But the good part about that is that the people in the program get to choose what's best for them. So they get to choose their agency they work with. They get to choose their fiscal agencies to work with. They get to choose their consultant. There's a lot of choice involved. But at the end of the day, that's a good thing, because if you're not getting the experience you want, you can always change. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to the relationship you have with your Iris consultant is the most important. Making sure that you have found a consultant that you enjoy working with, that understands, what you want from your life. So thanks for the questions, Jordan. Yeah, feel free to chime in if you come up with some others, but those were great questions. So you'll hear the words self-determination and self-directed a lot, right? And sometimes those two can get kind of put together into meaning the same thing. But they mean very different things. So there's a nice definition here on our website that I shared. The self-determination, like the self-determination conference that we've all attended. It's really built around the 5 core principles of freedom, authority, support, responsibility, and confirmation, right? It's, simply put, it's focused on the right that all individuals have the right to decide how they want to live their lives and have, and what they want to do and the roles they want to play in their community. Now, the self-directed, and when it comes to long-term care, really is more about the supports. It's making sure that it's about maximizing choice and control that you have. There's this term that we use in Iris. It's called budget authority. Has anyone heard of that phrase, budget authority, before? Jordan, maybe you have. He's given the thumbs up. So budget authority is unique in IRIS because that means that the budget you receive for your services and support, your IRIS funding that you receive, you have complete control over how you want to use that funding. So you have the authority with your IRIS funding. And as long as it's a allowable IRIS service, you will work with your consultant to make sure the services and the amount of services and who the agencies or the person or the family member or the neighbor or the friend that you want to provide those supports to you, you are going to be able to do that. So that is what it means to have budget authority, meaning you have control over your IRIS funding. I mentioned the ability to hire people you know. That's another thing that's unique about IRIS is that you can hire family members, friends, people in your life to perform services for you and support you and get paid for those services. You also have control over the agencies that you want to work with. So if there was an agency in your neighborhood or that you've worked with for a number of years, you can continue to work with that agency in IRIS. We don't have a network of agencies or providers like some other programs do. So that is unique to IRIS. Now I wanted to ask, is anyone familiar with the term employer authority?
Yes.
Oh, Jordan is too. So go ahead, Jordan.
I don't know if you want me to give the definition of what I think it is. It might be wrong, but I have a pretty good
I would
sense of getting it.
I would like to hear your definition.
You can work wherever you want to work, and your IRIS person has to work with you if you want to work where you want to work.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, having employer authority means will help you, support you, if they're help you achieve your employment goals. But it also means what I mentioned earlier was having control over the people that you hire for your services and support that you need. So best that you want to work with certain agencies or people in your life, or you need for example, you may want support twice a week to get out in your community and go volunteering. Well, you have the choice, you have the authority to hire the workers for that task and who you'd like to hire for that service, if that makes sense. So the budget authority piece, the employer authority piece, those are two really unique factors when it comes to IRIS. I want to go back to my slide. I'll stop. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. No other questions right now? Okay.
How do you know what I'm sorry for butting in again, but how do you know what, because I am with IRIS, but how do you know what service, like with TMG, how do you know what service because my IRIS people are out of Stevens Point.
Good question. So you think you're wondering how do you know which consultant agency you're working with?
Yes.
Yeah. You can ask your consultants the next time you meet with them. Just ask them what agency they work with. It might be on some of the paperwork that you received too. But I would just simply ask your consultant what agency they're working with.
Hey, Dan, go ahead. I have a question, Dan.
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt. Sorry if I interrupted that. So I'm not in Iris, okay? So what does the plan, like, when an individual or Jordan meets with his consultant, do they have like a 3-year plan? Or like just a plan throughout the whole year? And is it specifically for living, education, and employment? How is that broken down?
That's a great question. That is a very great question. So Iris plans are typically created annually. So they're
Okay.
typically try to map out a year-long plan, although that happens over the course of several meetings between the consultant and the person, right? I mean, if you think about our own lives, we don't necessarily always know what we want right now. 3 months from now, we could say, change our mind and want, oh, I just found this great opportunity to volunteer in my community. Well, I want to do this now. Or, I tried this job and it's not really for me, but I found this new opportunity and I'm really into cooking now. And I want to go explore, cooking classes. So plans are always being changing and developing, but typically when a plan is created, you try to create it for a year, and then every year you revisit that plan and update it for the next year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just, because is it like a person-centered planning too?
It is person-centered. Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I just want to make, I'm going to be learning from like Inclusive, and I'm going to be doing some of the jobs, some of the not like as an Iris consultant, but I am going to have like direct one-on-one conversations with employees, with their clients, excuse me.
Sure. So you're going to try to help them navigate and help them get connected with the services and give them some ideas on what's out there. That's great. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just think it's very important that, we set, in my opinion, it's very important to set measurable goals that the consumer actually has a chance of achieving, instead of like extraordinary goals where like take it like step by step and making sure that if they want to be employed, they're employed. If they want an education, they're in education. And making sure that if they get that education or employment job, that they will succeed at that employment job. And it's something that they like. Not
Absolutely.
what the consultants want. Sometimes I think that, I could talk and talk. Do you have like plans to like help the consumer like speak up, like advocate for themselves?
Yeah, we do. So a couple of things. I think you made some really good points. The first one being the person-centered planning. Yeah, and the fact that all of what we want is for the people to achieve their own individual life goals, right? So our plans are really built around having those conversations with the individuals, identifying what their goals for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months and beyond are for themselves, and helping them put together a plan for not only today and what do you need to make sure that you have the services you need today, but also what are those services you're going to need in order to achieve that goal that you have for 3 months from now or 6 months from now. And looking at all those different aspects of people's lives. And then as far as the documents around helping people, use their own voice and advocate for themselves, we have quite a few documents at TMG that we've created, but there are some wonderful documents out there by our community partners that I'm sure you all know, like BPDD, and I'm sure People First have created documents themselves. And we share those out too. So if you go to our TMG website, and actually show you guys here. We have a resource section on our website which has self-advocacy resources, and we link to some really wonderful resources. The first one that come to mind is my favorite. It's called Who I Am in My Community. I don't know if you guys have seen this document, but it was created a few years ago by BPDD and several other organizations, and we were part of. TMG was one of the organizations, but it's a wonderful document for young people that are in that transition age, youth, where they're wanting to get connected in the community, and it's sort of a guide for how do I share about myself and these different aspects of my life. And there's some workbooks that you can use to help you identify your interests and what you want people to know about your interests. But yeah, to answer your question, we have quite a few resources available for people that we try to share out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I wanted to share this on our website because you kind of asked, well, how are plans created, or what do they revolve around? But it's really around these 4 things. It's helping people achieve, full citizenship in the community through creating a home for themselves. Looking at people. Are you living in your dream situation for your living situation? Do you have a home that works for you? Is it accessible for you? Or what are some of your goals around living in the community? And then partnering, developing relationships with one another. What can we do to support people getting connected with others and developing relationships? Sense of belonging in your community. I think I mentioned that earlier, which is like, just getting out and being social, getting involved in your local community center or local YMCA, or volunteering, or going to some game nights at an organization that you're connected to. People First is a great example of that, right? And working with a purpose. Helping people, helping them achieve their passion through employment and independence and everything else that comes along with working. That sense of giving back to your community, that sense of getting connected with other people and developing work relationships. These are really this is really where how our plans are formed around these different areas. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just like to break down these, since I've learned a lot in the advocacy world. I just love to break down each subject. So that's for another discussion.
Yeah.
But I just love to break down and making sure that the sources, the accommodations work, and making sure that the consumer or client, or he or she or they are able, or him, are able to have a voice in that discussion.
I'm glad you brought that up, Nathaniel. That is definitely the most important piece of this whole thing, right? It's this again, the individuals in the driver's seat. They're the ones that are driving the car. They're the ones advocating for what they want, and how can we support that happening? TMG's our tagline for our organization is let's clear the path ahead, meaning that we will certainly help try to remove the barriers and the obstacles and make things as easy as possible for someone. But at the end of the day, the individual is the one, driving down the road and leading the charge. Somebody's asking for my email. I'd be happy to put that in the chat before we leave today. This is Iris is and all the long-term care options. Long-term care in general is complicated, and it's a big world, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. And so and I know that we're probably not going to get into all the different aspects today, but I certainly want to make sure that I'm here to answer any questions. But Nathaniel, since we are talking about the resources, I wanted to make sure I shared a few different resources on our website. So if I'm gonna share my screen again if it lets me.
I don't know, you might have, oh, yeah.
No, it works. So this is in our partner links and resource section of our website. We have looked at all those different areas in which we think that people would love to have some additional resources. And as you all know, we have a lot of great community partners out there, a lot of great organizations doing some great work and that have some wonderful resources out there for people. So we really try to put as many resources out there for people to access as possible. So they're really breaking down into these categories right now, but we're always adding to it. So as many of you know, the caregiving is a big issue right now. So we put some great caregiving resources out there. Employment, financial planning, health and wellness, housing resources, the self-determination and advocacy resources, Nathaniel, that you had mentioned. The path ahead is our newsletter, which we have some great additional resources there. Transportation, and then the Department of Health Services resources. But just to click on the self-determination and advocacy link, because we're talking about it. We have some great community partners that we link to here. Like Disability Rights Wisconsin, BPDD, DSAW, Family Voices of Wisconsin. And they link to our partners. But if we go, we have some other great resources. Now we have a school to community transition resource page on our website, which lists some wonderful resources for youth in transition, in that transition age. Again, from how do I enroll in IRIS, to some great success stories of people that have transitioned to community living or employment, or other aspects of their life and community. But inside our resources page here, we have some additional great resources. So if you click on, hey, I want to work, or I want to be part of my community, or I want to learn my options for decision making, or I want to strengthen my self-determination skills, you click on one of these and it brings you to a whole bunch of different resources out there. And these are not TMG documents there, but they're documents that other wonderful community organizations have created. So there's a link to the self-determination channel right there. The Family Voices of Wisconsin created a document called Working with My IRIS Consultants. And then they've also created the self-determination and children with disabilities documents, or the living with a self-directed life document. I mean, there's just great resources here. What is supported decision making? So the Who I Am in My Community document that I mentioned is in here too, as well as the Community Living Toolkit, which is a great resource that TMG created, and this community map that we created. It's just a big map with the different aspects of a community, and you can kind of write in your interests in the different areas. So I just want to make sure since we were talking about it, that I showed you guys this. And so this is on our website. If you go to tmgwisconsin.com. And if you have other resources that you think would be great in here, please don't ever hesitate to share them. Jordan, do you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I am an expert on supported decision making because I had a unique guardian story, and I sit on the board with a VPDD, their supported decision group, and I run the group with VPDD. So thank you for putting that on your website, and I really recommend that we stay in touch because I feel like we can help each other out.
Absolutely, that would be wonderful. Yeah, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Yeah, that is sport decision making is one of those topics that there's still a lot of people that don't quite know what that is. So we want to make sure that we're providing resources out for people so they get a clear understanding. And yeah, I mean, like the self-determination channel on YouTube is a wonderful resource that we want to share out with people, because you guys are always putting out great videos for people, and that we want to make sure that people know that that channel is out there. Absolutely. So I know we're running short on time, but I did just want to share one more thing with you guys, which there's a couple other documents here that I just quickly wanted to show you guys. There's the TMG Iris roadmap, which is a really nice document, again, that we have listed on our website. It's a really nice step-by-step guide on how to get started at Iris. So again, it all starts at your local ADRC, your Aging Disability Resource Center, and then it leads you to, should you choose TMG to work with and Iris, then you would select your FEA, and then you would start working on, selecting the supports and services you need. So I like this document a lot. I like the visual. I think it's really helps make things easier to understand. Oops. And then lastly, now this is a large document, but the Iris Participant Handbook is available on the DHS website. But if you're ever interested in really diving in and really wanting to understand Iris, this will tell you everything you need to know about the program and how it works, and all the different aspects. So you can see here, it really gives you a lot of information around living a self-directed life and the different agencies that you would work with, and the fiscal agents, and getting help, getting your plan started, and like the available services that are Iris services. And it really gets into detail. As you can see, it's a long document. It's about 23 pages or so, but this is available for people, and they did a really good job of trying to keep it in plain language that's going to be easy to understand. So if you really want to dive into any of the things we touched on today, you can get additional information in the Iris handbook. So I wanted to make sure that I shared my contact information with you all today, and you are always welcome to reach out should you have any additional questions. I'll also put our website address in here. And again, if you were interested in just going to either our resource page or our community living to transition page, or we have an employment resource page on our website, you can get to it by just clicking on the red bar on the side of our website. It'll take you to the different sections. But we have a ton of great resources out there if you're interested in learning more. Does anyone else have any additional questions?
Not really a question. I just really enjoyed the presentation. I didn't know too much about Iris or TMG prior to this, so that was good.
Well, good. I'm glad, and thank you so much for this opportunity. This was really great, and it was wonderful meeting you all. And I think it's wonderful that you guys are doing these luncheon series. How do I find out about your upcoming speakers? Is it on your website or on your Facebook page?
The upcoming ones aren't, I don't think, listed on the website, but I can let you know what the upcoming ones are. I have a Google Sheet document that has them all, and I can like type up what the ones are for July or August. So you know.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. This is wonderful. Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you, Dan.
And
Thank you
don't
so much
hesitate.
for coming.
Yeah, don't ever hesitate to reach out. Did you have any additional questions?
Okay, thank you, Dan. Appreciate you. So, that was a very
Yeah,
good-
and I know Nathaniel, you know Carrie. You've been meeting with Carrie.
Oh, yeah, and we're gonna do a presentation at the self-determination conference, and we're trying to do other presentations too throughout the after the self-determination.
Yeah,
Like what we're trying to do basically is get the basic skills down. So people know what to expect. People know, like, for instance, dignity of risk. We're kind of thinking about that. So if you do this, what is the consequences? If you do that, what is the outcomes? So we're trying to prepare people before they even meet like an IRIS consultant, so they know what to say, know what questions to ask. So we kind of have, so in like the presentation that we're going to give on the first day, that's going to say, how do you deliver a presentation, and the ins and outs about that. That's our first project. But
yeah, that's going to be great. But you're right. And the more information you have going into it, the better suit, the more armed you are to go in there knowing what you want. And the dignity of risk piece is so important too, right? I mean, so important for all of us. We all should be allowed to try things, and sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't, and sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail, but that's all part of life.
How do you get back? How do you get to that? How do you have the resources so it's not a hardship on that person? Like, okay, you made a mistake, so let's make out like 1 or 2, 3 goals and help you get through those goals to succeed on the next opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward to that presentation. I'm excited. And Cindy, I'm sure you'll be involved in some presentations, and maybe the others too. Yeah. And who knows, maybe we'll see each other in person sometime. I'm hoping so.
Dan, are you coming to the self-determination conference?
If it's going to be in person, I'll be there. Yeah. I don't know if it is or not yet. Maybe they haven't decided, but
I thought they just said yes, it was going to be.
Oh, good.
I think it's going to come to that. See, what I'm hearing is that it's going to be in person this year.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, Nathaniel.
No.
But I heard it's in person, but if you want to do it virtual, you can.
Yeah, correct.
I'm gonna be down there because I have to speak at many different events.
That's good.
Well, that's great. Yeah, well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Then, yeah, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll all get to be there in person if we want to be. So, I love that conference. Well, thank you guys again.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Dan.